My brother's house in suburban Connecticut was a gilded cage, a monument to a life I convinced myself I didn't want, yet secretly craved. The manicured lawn, the scent of lavender and freshly baked bread, the constant hum of domestic tranquility, it all grated on my nerves. My brother Alex, a man as simple and straightforward as his name, had built this perfect little world with Emily, and I was determined to find the cracks. Not to be malicious, I told myself, but to prove I was smarter, more strategic, better. Emily was a beautiful, sensitive woman, the kind who wore her heart on her sleeve. Alex, buried in his work as a project manager, had stopped seeing that a long time ago. He saw a wife, a home, a life to be maintained. He didn't see the lonely woman watering the flowers, her eyes distant, her smile a little too tight. "You look tired, Em," I said one rainy afternoon, watching her stir a pot of soup. My voice was a soft whisper, laced with faux concern. She sighed, a sound heavy with unspoken burdens. "Just a lot going on. Alex is always working late." My opportunity. I leaned against the counter, my posture deliberately casual. "Some men just don't know what they have until it's gone." The words hung in the air, a silent invitation. She met my gaze, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of something in her eyes besides sadness. It was curiosity. It was a spark. It was a crack in the gilded cage. My work had just begun. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The crack wasn't a sudden break. It was a slow, deliberate erosion, like water wearing away stone. Emily started confiding in me. Late-night texts filled with her frustrations, Alex's forgotten anniversaries, the sterile silence during dinner, the feeling of being a roommate rather than a wife. I played the part of the sympathetic sister-in-law perfectly, offering vague, understanding responses that didn't solve anything but made her feel heard. We'd go for long drives in my old Ford, the city lights of New Haven a blur outside the window, and I'd just listen. The rain-slicked streets, the empty cafes we'd duck into, they became our secret little world. One evening, at a small Italian place, a bottle of cheap Chianti between us, she started crying. "I just don't know who he is anymore," she whispered, her voice thick with despair. "He's a stranger in our own home." I reached across the table and took her hand. My touch was firm, not gentle, a silent promise of strength. "He's lost, Em. Not you," I said, a deliberate lie. In my mind, it was Alex who was the fool, and Emily, the willing victim. In reality, I was the puppet master, pulling the strings. My own heart, a cold, calculating machine, felt a surge of satisfaction. The validation I sought wasn't just about proving I was right. It was about feeling powerful. I saw her look at me, truly look at me, not as Alex's sister, but as a person who understood her. I saw her vulnerability as a key, and I knew exactly which lock it would open. The line blurred on a Tuesday evening. Alex was, predictably, working late. Emily and I were curled up on the couch, watching an old movie, a half-empty bottle of wine on the coffee table. The air was thick with the scent of rain and unspoken words. The movie was a distraction. The real drama was unfolding between us. I could feel the tension, a palpable current of electricity that had been building for weeks. When the credits rolled, a heavy silence fell. The only sound was the soft patter of rain against the window. Emily shifted, her hand brushing against mine as she reached for her glass. A small, seemingly insignificant touch, but it felt like a jolt. She didn't pull away. I moved closer, my voice a low murmur. "He doesn't see you, Em. Not the way you deserve to be seen." Her breath hitched. She finally turned to me, her eyes glistening. I saw the turmoil, the desperation, the need for a moment of escape. It wasn't about love. It was about a void that needed to be filled, and I was the perfect, terrible solution. My hand moved from hers to her cheek, my thumb tracing the line of her jaw. She didn't flinch. Her eyes closed, a silent surrender. The kiss wasn't one of passion, but of desperation, a messy, complicated blend of loneliness and a desire for connection. In that moment, I wasn't just a seductress. I was an accomplice to her pain. And as my heart pounded in my chest, I felt a new, exhilarating kind of power. The morning after was a study in silence and shame. Emily was distant, a ghost in her own home. She avoided eye contact, her movements stiff and guarded. I, on the other hand, felt a bizarre mix of guilt and triumph. The act itself was a means to an end, a terrible, calculated step in my grand plan. Now, it was time to put the pieces into motion. I waited for Alex to come home, a cloud of exhaustion and frustration hanging over him. He slumped onto the couch, oblivious to the emotional wreckage I had caused. "Rough day?" I asked, my voice dripping with false sympathy. He grunted. "Emily's been weird all day, won't even look at me." This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. I took a deep breath, my words carefully chosen. "Alex, can I be honest with you? As your sister?" He nodded, a flicker of concern in his eyes. "You're losing her," I said, the lie a smooth, practiced venom on my tongue. "She feels invisible. You're so wrapped up in work, you've forgotten to be a husband." I watched his face fall, the realization hitting him like a punch. "She's been talking to me. She's lonely, Alex. She's looking for something you're not giving her." He looked at me, his eyes wide with panic. "What do I do, Sarah?" I placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You save your marriage, you fight for her, and you start by thanking the person who told you before it was too late." The irony was a delicious, bitter wine on my lips. He thanked me. He actually thanked me for saving his marriage, not knowing I was the one who had almost destroyed it. Thank you for watching this chapter. To see what happens next, make sure you subscribe to the channel. My plan, initially designed to prove a point, was working with a terrifying efficiency. Alex, fueled by my manipulative advice, began to fight for his marriage. He started coming home earlier, bringing flowers and planning spontaneous date nights. The change was a cruel and beautiful thing to witness. I watched from the sidelines, a silent director of a play I had written. Emily, initially wary and guilt-ridden, began to thaw. She smiled more. Her eyes, once distant, now held a spark of genuine happiness. The laughter returned to their home, a sound that felt both like victory and a tightening noose around my own neck. One afternoon, I caught them in the kitchen. Alex was holding Emily from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder as they chopped vegetables. He kissed the top of her head, and she giggled, a sound I hadn't heard in years. The domestic scene, once a source of my cynicism, now felt like a painful reflection of my own emptiness. I had created their happiness, but in doing so, I had sentenced myself to be an outsider, a ghost in their renewed world. The satisfaction was still there, but it was now tainted with a bitter, burning jealousy. Emily came to me later, her face glowing. "He's trying so hard, Sarah. He's listening to me again. I feel like we're finally starting over." I forced a smile, the muscles in my face aching. "That's wonderful, Em. I'm so happy for you." My words were a lie, a hollow echo in my throat. I had wanted to expose their flaws, to prove their love was fragile. Instead, I had inadvertently made it stronger. The real victim, I realized with a jolt, was me. The victory I had envisioned was now turning into a slow, agonizing defeat. Their happiness was a constant, blinding light that highlighted the darkness within me. I started to notice the little things. The way Alex's hand would naturally find Emily's when they were walking. The shared glances across a room that spoke volumes. the intimate jokes I wasn't a part of. My carefully constructed facade of the helpful sister was becoming harder to maintain. I felt a growing sense of isolation, a deep-seated loneliness that felt colder and more profound than anything I had ever experienced. I tried to regain control, to reintroduce doubt. "He's just doing this because he's scared, you know," I whispered to Emily one day, hoping to plant a seed of suspicion. "It won't last." But her eyes, once so easily manipulated, were now clear and resolute. "No, Sarah. He's doing it because he loves me. We're both trying now." Her words were a shield, a barrier I couldn't break. My power over her was gone. The puppet had cut its strings and was now dancing to its own beautiful rhythm. The truth was, my plan hadn't just saved their marriage, it had saved them from me. I was losing my grip, and the feeling was both terrifying and strangely liberating. The monster I had created was not their marriage, but my own internal turmoil. The summer heat was oppressive, matching the suffocating weight in my chest. I watched Alex and Emily plan a weekend getaway, their excitement a stark contrast to my own growing dread. It was no longer about control or proving a point. It was about something far more uncomfortable: remorse. The memory of that rainy night, the feel of Emily's hand in mine, the kiss, it had once been a triumph. Now it was a shameful secret, a cancer eating away at my conscience. I found myself reflecting on my motives. Was it really just about being smarter? Or was it about a deeper, more profound envy of the love and connection they shared? A connection I had never had, not in my own relationships, not even with my own family. My resentment towards Alex wasn't just about his life. It was about my own, empty and full of bitterness. The truth, ugly and raw, was that I was profoundly, desperately lonely. I had wanted to destroy their happiness, not to build my own, but to make their world as miserable as mine. But it hadn't worked. I had only succeeded in making myself miserable. The guilt was no longer a dull ache. It was a sharp, piercing pain. The image of Emily's vulnerable face, trusting me, haunted my waking hours. The sound of Alex's grateful voice, thanking me for my help, echoed in my ears. I had weaponized their love, and the weapon was now turning on me. I saw my reflection in a store window, and for the first time, I didn't see the clever, manipulative woman I thought I was. I saw a scared, lonely girl, desperate for a place to belong. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapters of this story. The confession came on a crisp autumn evening. Alex had asked me to dinner, a simple meal at their place, just the three of us. The atmosphere was light, filled with a newfound ease that was a testament to their repaired relationship. But for me, the air was thick with tension. I couldn't bear it anymore. The lies, the secrets, the crushing weight of my deceit, it was all too much. As Emily went to the kitchen, I looked at my brother, the man I had so cruelly manipulated. "Alex," I began, my voice trembling, "I need to tell you something. About Emily and me." His expression was one of mild confusion. "What is it, Sarah?" I took a deep breath, the words tumbling out in a rush of shame and regret. "That night, when you were working late, Emily and we kissed." The confession hung in the air, a devastating silence filling the room. He stared at me, his face a mask of shock and disbelief. The man who had been so grateful for my help now looked at me as if I were a stranger. His confusion gave way to a cold, hard anger. "What are you talking about?" I could only look at him, tears finally stinging my eyes. "I'm so sorry, Alex. I was so lonely. I was trying to... I don't know what I was doing." The words were an inadequate, pathetic excuse for my actions. The truth was out. The grand manipulator was now a broken, weeping mess. I had wanted to hurt them, to prove I was clever. In the end, I had only succeeded in hurting myself. The next few weeks were a blur of cold shoulders and slammed doors. Alex, in his quiet, methodical way, had a difficult conversation with Emily. She, in turn, confronted me, not with anger, but with a deep, heart-wrenching sadness. "Why, Sarah?" she asked, her voice broken. "I trusted you." Her words were a deeper cut than any verbal assault. They stripped away my last vestiges of self-righteousness. I had broken the trust of the two people who were closest to me. The gilded cage, their home, was now a fortress I was locked out of. The phone calls stopped, the invitations to family dinners ceased, and I was left alone in my apartment, a monument to my own self-destruction. I realized the true cost of my actions. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about the profound, irreparable damage I had caused. The silence was deafening, a constant reminder of the love and connection I had so foolishly tried to tear apart. I had wanted to expose their flaws, to prove their world was fragile. Instead, I had exposed my own. The monster in my story wasn't Alex's neglect or Emily's loneliness. It was me, and my crippling inability to find happiness without destroying someone else's. I was living with the consequences, not as a clever villain, but as a deeply wounded, isolated woman. Months passed, the holidays came and went, and I spent them alone, a silent spectator to the happy lives of others. The occasional social media photo of Alex and Emily smiling, their arms wrapped around each other, was a stark and painful reminder of the life I had chosen to destroy. The irony was a constant companion. My destructive plan, meant to sabotage their happiness, had instead forged a stronger, more resilient bond between them. Their love, born from the ashes of my deceit, was now something unbreakable. I saw Alex once, from across a coffee shop. Our eyes met for a fleeting second. His expression was no longer one of anger, but of a quiet, unyielding disappointment. He didn't look at me as his sister. He looked at me as a stranger. I had successfully made myself an outsider in my own family, a ghost haunting the edges of a life I could never have. The pain was a physical ache, a constant weight in my chest. I had won the battle, in a twisted sort of way, but I had lost the war. The real consequence wasn't some dramatic downfall, but a quiet, soul-crushing isolation. I was left with nothing but the echo of my own manipulative words and the unbearable silence of a world I had so deliberately broken. Thank you for watching the final chapter of this story. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this.